She's just jealous. My sister has spent years cleaning toilets on a boat, so she can't stand seeing me actually succeed in the real world. My brother Leo's arrogant voice boomed across the crowded rooftop lounge. He threw his arms out, gesturing proudly to the 50 wealthy investors and country club elites gathered for his tech startup launch party. The entire crowd burst into snide chuckles, turning their heads to stare at me. I stood there in my crisp, tailored navy whites. I wasn't a toilet cleaner. I was a lieutenant commander, a highly decorated naval intelligence officer who had just survived a high-stakes, 10-month deployment tracking hostile threats in deep waters. I literally just arrived from the base to surprise my family, still carrying my garment bag. Instead of a welcome, my mother looked at me with deep embarrassment. She quickly stepped in front of me, trying to block me from the view of Leo's wealthy partners. "Leo is right, Maya. You look completely ridiculous showing up in that stiff uniform just to try and steal his spotlight," my mother whispered venomously. "Change into a proper dress or leave immediately. You're embarrassing us in front of the mayor." "Mom, I just spent 10 months at sea," I said, a wave of agonizing pain hitting my chest. "Support him?" my father scoffed, sipping his champagne. "You've always tried to outshine your brother with your little military hobby. Get out, Maya. You're ruining the atmosphere." The public rejection stung like physical ice. The onlookers whispered, judging me as a bitter, unsupportive sister. Fighting back the burning tears of betrayal, I turned on my heel and walked out to the elevator. I sat in my car in the dark parking garage, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The emotional pain was staggering, but it was about to get worse. Buzz. My phone lit up. It was a text message from Leo. "Since you decided to throw a petty tantrum and embarrass me, Dad and I are revoking your access to the beach house. We changed the digital locks tonight. Don't bother looking for your graduation gifts or old military medals either. We cleared them out to make room for my new office." Before I could even process the cruelty, a loud banking alert flashed across my screen. "Alert. Your secondary business account has been frozen due to unauthorized overdraft attempts." My mother had just tried to wire $40,000 out of the account I set up exclusively to pay for my aging grandfather's private nursing care. They weren't just throwing me out, they were actively stripping away my past and robbing my funds while I was still bleeding from their words. They truly believed they were the elite, self-made royalty of this city. They thought Leo's brilliant tech startup, my father's prestigious firm, and that beautiful multi-million-dollar beach house were proof of their superior genius. They had absolutely no idea. 18 months ago, Leo committed massive financial negligence, losing over $350,000 of investors' money in a failed crypto scheme. He was facing a massive corporate lawsuit and prison time. I was a lieutenant back then. I quietly stepped in, utilized my high-level intelligence network to track down the missing funds, used $150,000 of my own combat bonuses to clear his debt, and put the beach house deed entirely in my own name to prevent my parents from going bankrupt. They thought the lawsuit magically disappeared due to Leo's charm. They had completely forgotten who actually paid for their luxurious reality. I drove to a nearby motel, my mind racing with cold fury. As I sat down on the bed, my phone began vibrating nonstop. Notifications were exploding. Leo had already launched a massive online smear campaign. He had posted a photo of me from the rooftop lounge on his public business page and Instagram. It breaks my heart to say this, but my sister Maya, who has become highly unstable and aggressive due to her time in the Navy, showed up uninvited to my company launch tonight. She demanded I hand over 20% of my startup equity, screamed at our mother, and threatened to ruin my business if we didn't pay her off. We love her, but she is a danger to our family's safety. Please ignore her. The comments from local relatives and business partners were absolutely brutal. So toxic, disgraceful behavior for a naval officer.
She's clearly dynamic-starved and jealous of Leo's wealth. What a psycho! She needs to be reported to the military authorities immediately. My own blood was completely destroying my career and reputation before I could even unpack my bags.
That was the exact moment the grief died. The agonizing pain instantly vanished, replaced by a cold, calculated military focus. I was a naval intelligence officer. I coordinated strategic operations across oceans. I tracked high-value targets for breakfast, and my family had just become my primary targets. I wiped a single cold tear from my cheek. "No more," I whispered. "You want to see a ruthless monster? I'll show you what a tactical counterstrike looks like." I opened my laptop. First, I locked the family trust and grandfather's medical account completely, freezing every single dollar. My mother's $40,000 transfer permanently flagged as declined. Next, I pulled up the legal deed to the beach house. I contacted my military legal advisor and initiated an immediate, expedited 24-hour eviction notice for the illegal occupants. Finally, I compiled every single document, text message, and bank transfer proving that Leo's startup was funded entirely by my saved combat pay. I wasn't going to hide anymore. I was going to expose the illusion entirely. The next morning, I walked out of a local notary office after signing the eviction papers. The moment I stepped onto the sidewalk, a sharp, tactical instinct pricked the back of my neck. I was being watched. A sleek, armored black SUV with heavily tinted windows and government plates had been idling quietly across the street. It had been following me since I left the motel. Through a slight crack in the front driver's side window, I caught the distinct glimpse of a high-ranking naval official staring directly at me, holding a thick military folder. He didn't make a move. He just observed me with absolute intensity. When I walked toward my car, the SUV slowly pulled out, its engine roaring quietly as it vanished into the city traffic. My stomach knotted. Was I being investigated because of Leo's viral lies? Was my security clearance in jeopardy? The pressure was suffocating, but I couldn't let it break my focus. The final showdown was tonight. Tonight was the elite high society charity gala at the city's grandest yacht club. My family had spent months preparing for this event, using it to secure the final massive venture capital investments for Leo's startup. Over 100 of the city's most powerful figures were in attendance. I walked straight through the grand entrance. I wasn't wearing civilian clothes. I wore my immaculate navy dress white uniform, my gold stripes and combat ribbons gleaming brilliantly under the crystal chandeliers. The ballroom was magnificent. In the center of the room stood Leo, holding a glass of champagne, loudly pitching his tech company to a circle of multi-millionaire investors. The moment he spotted me marching toward him, his face contorted into pure, ugly arrogance. He tapped his microphone loudly, silencing the entire ballroom. "Everyone, look who decided to crawl back. The jealous sister is back for more attention. Tell us, Maya, did you come here to beg for a handout, or are you going to threaten my investors because your own life is a complete failure?" The wealthy crowd chuckled dismissively, looking at me with absolute disgust. My mother stepped up beside him, crossing her arms. "Get out of here, Maya. You are a toxic parasite. We don't want your broken mental state ruining Leo's career." My father sneered. "Leave before I have the yacht club security forcefully throw you into the street." They thought they had won. They thought they had backed me into a corner in front of the whole world. Suddenly, the heavy oak doors of the yacht club ballroom slammed open with a resounding thud. The room went completely dead silent. Walking into the ballroom was a tall, imposing figure with an unmistakable aura of absolute power. He wore a flawless uniform covered in rows of historic combat medals, and on his shoulders gleamed the silver stars of a 4-star Navy admiral. It was Admiral Richard Vance, the commander of the fleet, a legendary figure who reported directly to the Pentagon. Behind him walked 2 stone-faced naval military police officers. The crowd gasped in shock.
My father's jaw dropped. A 4-star admiral entering a local civilian gala was entirely unheard of. Admiral Vance didn't look at the wealthy investors. He didn't look at my parents. He marched with terrifying authority straight across the polished floor, directly toward our table. He stopped exactly 2 feet in front of me. He snapped his shoes together, stood at flawless attention, and delivered a crisp, powerful salute directly at me. Lieutenant Commander Maya Davis, it is an absolute honor to finally deliver your orders in person. I immediately snapped to attention and returned the salute perfectly. The honor is mine, Admiral.
Leo's face went completely pale. He stumbled backward into a table. "Admiral, I think there's a major misunderstanding," he stammered, trying to force a manipulative smile. "My sister is just a low-level analyst. She's unstable. She's been trying to extort my company." Admiral Vance slowly turned his head, his icy blue eyes locking onto Leo. The sheer, terrifying authority radiating from the commander made Leo instantly freeze in fear. "Hold your tongue," the Admiral said, with a quiet, lethal weight. "You are speaking about a national hero. Lieutenant Commander Davis didn't just analyze. Her brilliance in naval intelligence single-handedly exposed a foreign cyber terror network, saving thousands of American lives and protecting our global assets. She's being promoted to commander next week at the Pentagon, and I am here to personally handle the security threats against her." The entire ballroom erupted in shocked, frantic whispers. My mother looked like she had just swallowed glass. "Furthermore," Admiral Vance continued, gesturing to his military police officer, who stepped forward and dropped a thick legal binder right in front of my father, "the United States Navy protects its officers. We conducted a full federal investigation into the financial fraud and defamation committed against Commander Davis." I stepped forward, looking my mother, father, and brother dead in their terrified eyes. The grief in my heart was entirely dead. I was in absolute control. "Mother," I said, clearly, ensuring every single multimillionaire investor in the ballroom heard me, "the $40,000 you tried to steal from grandfather's medical fund last night, it's completely frozen. I've legally removed you from the trust. You don't have access to a single cent." My mother choked, grabbing her chest. You can't do this." "I already did," I replied calmly. I turned to my father, whose face was completely drained of color. "Father, the eviction notice for the beach house was served to your office this morning. You, Mother, and Leo have exactly 24 hours to pack your things and vacate my property. If you aren't out, the local sheriff will remove you forcefully." "Maya, please!" Leo shrieked, his voice cracking as he saw his wealthy venture capitalists backing away from him in horror. "My investors are watching. You're ruining my launch. You're ruining my life." The primary venture capitalist, a highly respected billionaire, stepped forward looking at Leo with pure disgust. "Leo, your entire startup was funded by your sister's combat pay while you publicly slandered her. The deal is off. I don't invest in thieves and frauds." I looked at my brother, who was trembling, tears ruining his arrogant face. I leaned in close, ensuring my final words cut through the silent room like a blade. "You told everyone I was just jealous, Leo," my voice dripping with legendary naval authority. "But the truth is, I built the foundation you were standing on, and tonight I'm pulling the plug. Enjoy the street." The destruction of their social and financial existence was instant and absolute. The investors immediately turned their backs on Leo, walking away and canceling every meeting. Within seconds, Leo's phone began buzzing frantically as news of the fraud leaked online, causing his share prices and follower counts to completely collapse into nothingness.
My mother dropped to her knees on the ballroom floor, sobbing hysterically, grabbing at my uniform trousers. My father stood frozen, realizing his firm, his home, and his reputation were entirely destroyed. The wealthy guests who had laughed at me minutes ago now looked at my family with utter revulsion. Several prominent figures tried to step up to apologize to me, but I ignored them entirely. They didn't matter. Admiral Vance offered a small, proud smile. "Your transport is waiting outside, Commander. Let's get you ready for the Pentagon." "Right behind you, sir," I said. I turned my back on my weeping family, walking out of the yacht club with my head held high, leaving them to completely drown in the absolute chaos of their own greed. You cannot cure a toxic, envious family with your own sacrifice. For years, I believed that if I worked harder, if I sailed further, if I quietly saved them from bankruptcy and funded their lavish lifestyles, they would finally see my worth and love me. I thought my silence would buy their respect. But narcissistic people do not appreciate your sacrifices. They merely view them as a green light to exploit you further. They will happily watch you risk your life at sea while they plot how to spend your hard-earned money. True honor isn't about letting toxic people destroy you just because you share a last name. True honor is knowing your own value, drawing an unbreakable line in the sand, and letting the fires of karma handle the rest.